Let's get real for a hot minute. I know that you don't have time during your conference period to sit around and read all these history books. So I'm helping you with some heavy lifting. Hello historians, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Cecilia Tamez, your history teacher mentor, and I'm here to make sure that you feel confident and effective as you facilitate learning in your classroom. So this is the third video of the History Teaching Resources mini-series, and if you haven't watched the other videos, what are you waiting for? At the end of this video, go peep the playlist. I'll go ahead and link it down for you below. It's just called History Teaching Resources, so you can watch the other videos in this mini-series. Also, don't forget to show this channel some love, and all you have to do is hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, so I can keep cranking out that inspired history teacher content. So let's talk history books. You have all sorts of history books that cover special historical topics from different historical perspectives. Now, personally, those are fantastic books for some weekend reading. But for a teacher that may be just starting out, trying to figure out curriculum and lesson planning, these books are probably not going to be that much help. You need something practical, effective, purposeful. Now, as we explore some history book ideas, I do want you to keep in mind that these specialized historical topic books do have a place and a time, and essentially it's to just help us as teachers level up our historical knowledge, study history through different historical lens that we can later embed in the way that we construct lessons and deliver instruction to our students. But I don't want you to feel caught up and overwhelmed in trying to interject all these different lenses all at once since the start of your career. Because as I said, it's a lot. So here are some history books or written resources that actually can help you. Since we talked about being content rusty when you first start teaching, or if this is your first time teaching a particular history course, you want to look for books that are condensed, highly readable, and well organized. You want to make sure, first and foremost, that you have a text that'll help you get a good grasp on your content quickly and accurately, because if you don't know your content, your students won't either. So some examples of good books that'll help you quickly catch up on your history content might be something like the AMSCO book if you're teaching AP US history. Another book example might be something like the Everything You Need to Know About series. And so they have different topics. So this one's Everything You'd Need to Know About world history. My personal favorite that I felt was highly readable, and it was actually assigned reading for my students when I was an adjunct, was this book right here, American Destiny by Mark C. Carnes and John A. Garrity. Clearly, I use it quite a bit. Another history teaching resource that's helpful for instruction are current event magazines, articles, or newspapers. So for example, in this category, we might have Newsella, Scholastic Magazine, Vocabulary, even though Vocabulary is more of a media resource. But overall, including these type of resources not only create great opportunities for social studies skill practice, but actually create immediate relevancy for your students. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that creating relevancy is an essential component to creating engagement. Now, we can't talk about history teaching resource books without talking about textbooks. You definitely want a book that's user-friendly, has a good chronological sequence, especially if you're teaching a chronological history course. I also highly recommend this book called The Yop. I know it sounds weird, but I'll go ahead and link it down below for you. It is actually a collaborative online history book that's written and revised from historians from all across the country. So this is great if your textbook is outdated, if you're like, this isn't working, and if you need some sort of content guide to give you an idea of what you want to cover. So again, this is great for teachers that have zero curriculum and know where to start. And that textbook does cover exploration, colonization. Actually, no, it covers pre-Columbian time all the way to present. Now, overall, unless the textbook is absolutely required, I do want to point out that for the most part, the textbook will be a guide for you. Okay, so I gotta know, are you a textbook teacher? Let me know in the comments below if you actually like using your textbook, how you use your textbook, and how you rate your textbook. Is it a thumbs up? Is it a thumbs down? Let me know in the comments below. Now for the best part. The most essential history teaching resource book that you have to have in your classroom, hands down, are primary source readers, either excerpts or some sort of simplified compilation for students. So one of the resources that I really liked using that were primary source readers, it was a primary source reader compilation, was this series from, it's called Next Text Historical Readers, and it is by McDougall-Littell. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And they do include topics that are not just US history. So they do have some world history topics, some ancient civilization topics, more modern history. And I'll be frank with you, these books are a little bit rare and hard to find because they are a little bit older. And to be transparent, they do have some bias as far as like which primary source voices are added to their compilations, but I think they were still pretty ahead of their time in really trying to center different perspectives, different voices as a insightful way to create context for historical studies in the classroom. I also have another historical reader called For the Record. There's 2 volumes of this one, and this one is a little bit for more mature students. So I would recommend something like this for high school students. I also liked this particular book by Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston, Call to Freedom, and this is for the first part of US history. And even though it's a workbook, it does have primary source excerpts within the workbook. So extremely helpful and also simplified for younger students. Now, ironically enough, our next history teaching resource is actually not a book, although it can be. And of course, I'm talking about Junior Great Books. So Junior Great Books is actually an organization that teaches teachers how to lead inquiry-based learning. So Junior Great Books actually provides some teacher guides that coach you through the process of how to set up an inquiry-based activity. And these guides are super helpful when trying to figure out what questions to ask and how to structure an activity that's very open-ended like this. Now, I want to remind you that in history, the questions that we ask matter. If you set your students up to always just answer recall question and low-level questions, then you're essentially crutching your students to be able to answer higher order history questions. Another can't miss history teaching resource are actual copies of literary pieces that you mention during your instruction. So for example, if you mention Uncle Tom's Cabin within your curriculum, then you might want to have a copy of Uncle Tom's Cabin in your classroom. And this is great because you can actually use it to refer to it, to read excerpts of it. There is nothing that helps students create historical context like actually reading literature of the time. Now, just a reminder, I've said it time and time again, you would be surprised at the insight that you can provide learners by telling a well-told story. Not only does this help create historical context, but literature usually does a really good job at appealing to your learners' emotions, which means it gets your students intrinsically interested and engaged in what you're teaching because it's creating relevancy. Every human can relate to human emotions. So that being said, if you're looking for ways to engage your learners, I highly recommend that you check out my video, How to Teach History in an Interesting Way, and I'll go ahead and link that up in the card and also down for you to watch at the end of this video. Now, if you made it this far in the video, be sure to comment book talk in the comments below so that I know that you would be interested in having me delve into more specific history books. And also, if you want to connect with me and access exclusive content that I don't share anywhere else, come hang out with me and my history teacher friends at the History Teachers Lounge in the link below. As always, I want your success. I'm rooting for you. Until next time, class dismissed.